I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Vita and Chip. Booby shirt's coming soon, guys.
Yeah.
I said it for you.
Booby shirt's coming soon.
I don't even know why you're saying. We're still waiting for the fashaw shirts. I need you to take a picture.
Fashaw.
It's all ready to be printed.
In Flames?
Yep.
This is the second song from In Flames we've done. We did them like 4 months ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did we like them?
It was okay. It was an alright song.
I'm very excited because I found a Jamaican store in our town.
Fashaw.
And so I went there and like they had all the stuff that I can make like authentic Jamaican recipes with, and I got a recipe book and all kinds of stuff. Later today, Vinny and I are probably gonna try to cook one of the Jamaican stews, and then that will be up on my
My Sori Life.
yes,
which is Sori's channel.
Yep.
You're currently in the middle of a 20 question series with
Yes.
everybody in the family.
Everybody's getting a little interview, and so
Yeah.
you'll get to find out a little information on each person.
If you want to be angry and upset, you can subscribe to Middle America with Vin and Sori, where we talk about everything.
Yeah, but the other thing
Political,
too,
religious, all that
it's not
jazz.
just being frustrated and upset. It's like having an actual mature spot to talk about politics.
Right.
Because it's not like one-sided way of thinking where you're right, it doesn't matter how crazy your side is, you're just saying, I'm right because I'm on the right, or I'm right because I'm on the left. It's middle America, so we're finding that spot that like uses, I don't know, in our opinion, is like common sense road between the two of them. So,
There you are.
check it out.
This, though, is Take This Life in Flames. And let's check it out.
And
Go!
whoa. one.
Ooh,
That was really good.
hard hitting.
That.
That's whew, good song.
Yeah.
God Almighty.
I don't know what we were singing about though. But I like the sound of it. I like the instruments. I liked his voice. I liked the screaming part, the singing part. I liked all of that. But I don't know what we're singing about.
I think it's a conversation between a suicidal person and the person trying to help them. It's not so much the pain, it's more the actual knife pretending the picture is perfect. I cut myself to sleep. That was a crazy line.
Yeah.
Because it's usually I cry myself to sleep.
Yeah.
But I cut myself to sleep.
Yeah.
I remember when I was going through that whole cutting phase. And a lot of it was so to not cry, to be able to...
Really?
Yeah, it was to be able to deal with the pain and to be able to prove to myself that the thing wasn't defeating me or whatever. I was having a very major conflict with a person in my house. So it was like, it was about being able to like feel the pain, and I just needed something to be shed, basically was the idea.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a pretty crazy line because that brought me back.
Wow.
For sure. That brought me back to 18 years old and, you know,
Wow.
pretty crazy. So it looks like a conversation because it's like, so the person's talking about what they're going through, and then the pre-chorus says, if I never, make me understand the thought, whatever. And then that person responds, make me see, make me be, make me understand, you're there for me. And then the person says, take this life, and the other person says, I'm right here, stay a while. See what I mean? Like, it just sounds, it looks, the pre-chorus and the chorus looks
I
like
see what you're saying. Yeah.
it's a back and forth.
Yeah. I can see that.
You know, because the person's asking for their life to be taken, and then the other person's saying, well, you're not alone, stay a while. You know, like, because really, honestly, like in people in suicidal situations, a lot of it is just if they could just make it, you know,
Today.
through a night or through the next 5 minutes. You know, like you don't have to tell people to live forever.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like when you're suicidal, the prospect of living for
Forever.
a year,
Yeah. It feels like forever.
it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like,
No, that's true.
stay a while.
Yep.
You know, and all that. So that I just, you know, for me, that at my lowest points, that's when I was in the hospital, and
Yeah.
this is pretty much my relationship with God at this time. This is like, this conversation could have been that conversation, because that was pretty much what it was like. You know, it was like, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Wow. The
Remembering
raindrops
that.
just begged to hit me. What now? Hasn't rained for days. I didn't understand that.
Well, it's kind of like drought. It's probably talking about not being able to cry.
Oh.
He wants to cry, but he hasn't been
Damn
able
it.
to.
Yeah, but you're right.
And then he was talking about cutting himself to sleep earlier. So he didn't say anything about crying, but I mean, you could replace cut with crying. And then if you go to verse 2,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think usually as a writer, you write the whole thing out, and then the chorus is like separate. So this, you can figure out like verse 1 and verse 2 were probably just one stream of thought that was sliced in between the choruses. So it makes sense. He's probably talking about the inability to be able to actually shed a tear,
Yeah.
because you do reach a point where, especially, that's why it's not good to develop that cutting habit at all, because you're supposed to, you know, crying is one of the things that you're given to be able to have that release and all that. And if you train your mind and your body that is the cutting is a release, and you have actually a hard time actually crying. So it's like super dangerous.
And you haven't cut in years.
Oh no, I mean,
So, and you're not a crier.
no, I'm not a
So
crier.
it like changed you for a long time.
Well, I mean, a lot of people just by disposition, like, you know, Zoe's a crier. Dorian is a big crier.
Yeah.
Like that. He cries over everything.
So does Johan though.
Zoe, not so much. Zoe's not a
Not
big crier.
anymore.
Yeah, she's not a big crier. But
She went through a phase where
Yeah, she went through a phase where she's crying over everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dorgan's a very, very big crier. You know, so some people are just born certain ways. You know, you know. So I wasn't a big crier. Period. But it was definitely worse during that time because it all got channeled that way, and that's not good.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
That's a pretty crazy trap to be in, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yikes.
No time to play hide and seek. I call on you to take me on. Break me down to pieces. Put me back to it right this time. Struggling to fill this empty shell. Burn all my efforts in the end. It means nothing.
That part.
Why?
Burn all my efforts in the end. It means nothing.
What do you
Like
mean?
everything they're trying to do, they're trying to get it. You know, if the person's trying to get out of this mindset or trying to like change or whatever, but when you're in that phase where you feel like it doesn't, you don't stay like that forever, but you do go through phases sometimes where you feel like everything that you've ever tried or ever struggled to accomplish literally means nothing. Like,
Right.
so everything that you've ever done, and the other thing too about like getting in those bouts of depression where you're suicidal, like it's almost like you can't remember the things that you have accomplished in life.
Yep.
You know, because there's always, you know, we used to watch this movie every year at Christmas time. It's called It's a Wonderful Life. You know, and then the guy, like, do you remember that one?
You're hilarious.
What?
It's called. Everybody knows that movie. Go ahead.
Anyway, but the guy, you know, the guy wishes he was never born because he thinks it'd be better for his family, and then he gets to see what life is like if he wasn't there, and like things change, you know. And I think that a lot of times we think, well, some people think, oh, there would be no change if I wasn't here, you know, people would all be better, but it's not true. Like, there's always something that you've presented and that you brought, but when you're in a bad off spot, you don't see that sometimes. So that feeling, you know, makes sense.
No time to play hide and seek. That's really interesting.
I didn't understand that.
Well, when you're trying to help somebody who's in this situation, like there is a lot of like, remember R, that girl R that we're always trying to help, and she was never really honest about stuff. And there was like this kind of cat and mouse hide and seek game. She needed help. She didn't need the help. Da, da, da. And now it's like people post crazy stuff in social media. Then you go to check on them, and you know, like, but you kind of reach a point where people actually are running out of time.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm calling on you to take me on. Just pretty good. Pretty self-aware. Like, he's realizing, like, okay, I've been doing the hide and seek thing, but I really need your help now. And then the whole do it right this time. Put me back, do it right this time. That's a hell of a burden to place on somebody who's trying to help you. You know? That's a lot of weight to bear and a lot of pressure to bear.
It's not fair. All right.
Yeah, and it took me a while. It took me a while to realize, like, wait a second, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility. That's one of the.
Well, that's good that you came to that realization, because you're kind of like you take a lot on.
Yeah.
For people.
Well, I mean, of course, being a person who was in this situation I was severely at the edge. I'm not speaking as somebody who's like from an ivory tower. Like, I know the deal. But it's not anybody's responsibility to put you back together. That's like, but you know, this is one of those things where it's like, to me, it's like our worldview becomes extremely convenient, right? Because I say it's my job to put you in a situation where you can best hear from God. It's not my job to save your life. I can't. And people have come to me and said, "Oh, you saved my life," blah blah blah. And then you just say, "Well, I was an instrument of God. You know, I was a means that God used to save your life." But it's not my responsibility to put you back together.
Well, I think it's like like when you get a cut and you put the Neosporin, you put the Band-Aid, you clean it, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff. Like, it was gonna heal.
Yeah.
But all that stuff like helped, and like we're that help for people. But it's ultimately God is the one that makes that wound heal. Like, you don't make that wound heal. The doctor doesn't make it heal. The doctor can do the surgery and put everything there and give you the antibiotics, and then but your body has to do all the healing. And obviously we're Christians, so we believe the reason that your body does it is not just some random happening, but God sets up your body to have that healing process.
Right.
So the same.
Well, it's very similar when it comes to wounds of the soul.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, there's no human being that you know that can even bear the weight of their own soul.
Never mind your neighbors.
Never mind yours.
Yeah.
It's like, It's like, no,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
But if you're a caretaker, because there's a lot of, people get put in certain roles. And, whatever you call it, an empath, a caretaker, whatever you call it, you get placed in a role where people and it's it's kind of deceptive, because on the other hand, it's an ego boost. Because if you're successful, people will credit you with saving their lives and all the rest of it. And if you ingest that propaganda, well, then what happens when it goes bad?
Right.
Or what happens when
Right.
somebody's in the middle of this?
Yep.
You better be careful.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
like, you got to learn. There's some hard lessons to learn from that, And it doesn't absolve you as a responsibility to try to help people either. Because I've noted multiple times on the channel, there have been family members that I've lost where I clearly missed very obvious signs that if I had to do it over again, I'd have done something. Like for me, my problem with those situations is like, if I'd have caught the signs and done something and then they did something to themselves, I'd have been in a different headspace, But they were like plain as day, but I was too caught up in other situations to recognize what was happening. And the other situations were very significant.
Yeah, it's not like you were caught up in the selfishness of your own soul.
No, there are some pretty, there are other significant issues happening at the time
Right.
to where I missed that situation. But,
Right.
I mean,
But still, that doesn't help you.
no, I'm going to carry that for the rest of my life. But if you,
Not that you're supposed to. I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think that that's what you're doing, but I don't think that people are supposed to carry that guilt like that.
I mean, I don't know if it's guilt. It's like, you had a game-winning shot and you missed it. I mean, I don't think guilt is the term.
What would it be?
Missed the shot. You don't feel guilty for missing the shot. It's like you didn't do anything wrong per
But do you think
se.
that that's what God wants for
You
you?
missed the shot. I don't know what he wants in that one. I don't talk to him much
Well,
about that one.
if there was like other people on the channel that was carrying stuff like that, would you think that God would want them to carry that
I
every
don't
day?
know. That's between them and God, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that God would want them at some point to bring it and like just let him help deal with that, bear that. Can you hear that horn?
Yes, I can. Winter in Maine, ladies.
Yeah, it's been snowing all night and into the morning. Okay. If I never. Oh yeah, we already did that part.
Make me understand the thought. What is going in your head? That's true, though. A lot of people, if you're in the caretaking role, that's a big thing. Like, what are you thinking? Not like, what are you thinking, dummy? It's just like, what's going on in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
What is the thought process? Because it's it's hard when somebody's in that state of mind for a protracted period of time. There's not really a lot of rationale behind it. I was watching something a couple days ago, or listening to something where it wasn't Peterson, it was some other clinical psychologist. I think it was Peterson actually, where people who are suicidal, something really, really good will happen, and it will trigger them to attempt suicide.
I heard of that. That one was.
So it's like, you'll hear things like, oh, so-and-so, I've seen things on TV where like somebody dies and it's ruled a suicide, and they're like, that can't be right because everything was going well for them.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, they're using logic and rationale. And when a person is in that type of headspace, that's not how it works. So, a lot of times, like Peterson was saying something to the effect of like, they basically say, well, I'm on this high and it's never going to get better than this, so I might as well get out of here while I'm still happy before I get miserable again. See what I'm saying? It's like,
Oh my gosh.
so you can't,
Yikes.
you really don't know what people are thinking. Doesn't matter what the situation is. Like, you really don't
That's
know.
scary. That's really.
Even, there was this guy in this band, he was a Satanist dude, and the dude from Dissection.
Yeah.
And he basically, he killed somebody, he went to jail, got out, and then he put out this record, it had all this acclaim or whatever, and then he killed himself. And of course, he put all this satanic, I'm going out on my own terms, I accomplished everything I needed to accomplish. And
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And then, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah. I just think that he was just suicidal or whatever, and then he had his,
Wow.
And he made a point to say, killing yourself because your life is miserable and stuff is not what Satanism is about. You know, because you're just doing that because you're weak. And he was basically saying, look, I'm at the pinnacle of my career and I'm doing it. You know, but
Yikes, man.
the clinical psychologist would say that doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't suicidal.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
people miss things. And it just goes to show that, you know, your circumstances are not ultimately, and I said ultimately, what makes you happy or not happy. It's not your circumstances.
Yeah.
And, you know, bad situations trigger suicidal behavior, and good situations trigger suicidal behavior. There's some, and, you know, as long as people want to, you know, pretend that the only thing that's there is neurons and electrons. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
There's something transcendent about human beings that needs fixing. These thoughts burn a hole in my heart. This one says free and this one says feeling. And I think it's feeling. These thoughts burn a hole in my heart. These thoughts will keep me feeling. That's what it really means. That's interesting. Because it's
the thoughts of what? Suicide? Or what thoughts?
Anything that's making him miserable is destroying him.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing that he can feel at this point. But that goes back to the whole cutting thing.
I know.
Like,
Yes.
if you can't channel your misery properly, then you actually become numb to anything other than just pain.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a real. Look, you could really, really, really destroy yourself. Like, because I remember being in certain situations where I would do what you want with it, but I would hear, like, if you sit and dwell on that, you're gonna get more and more angry and miserable and whatever. Why would you do that? And it was just a very matter-of-fact voice, very nothing like hocus pocus, but it was just very matter-of-fact within my head. Say what you want, right? And I remember distinctly responding and saying, "Yeah, but I want to be dark." I remember that clear as day.
Yep.
And I would just sit there and dwell on bad feelings, bad thoughts, and all that. And it was just a, it was just a really, really. Of course, for me, I'm like that was God speaking to me in a very, very practical, you know, way. Because that was before I went to therapy or the hospital or anything like that. I could feel myself getting more and more dark, and it was just a very like, hey man, you're that's just gonna make you more angry. Why would you do that? Which is interesting because God in the Bible, whenever He talks to people, it's always a question. Why would you do that? And I said, because I want to be dark.
Right. Yeah.
And that was, and he was gone.
Yep.
Like, leave me alone. I want to be dark. And it's like, okay, I'll see you at the hospital. That's pretty much. It was like 3 or 4 weeks later. I was out.
There.
Now he didn't say see you at the hospital. It was just. It was just. You know.
I mean, I think I had a similar thing when I was like going through a really difficult phase. Like I would think about, like really dark and all the negative and stuff like that. And I remember thinking too, like, this isn't going to help. Why are you thinking about these things?
Right.
But I didn't think I didn't say I want to be dark. My thought was I want to think about them because there was almost like I don't know. It was like cathartic.
Yeah.
To think about.
Yeah.
And to, picture different negative things and stuff like that. But you kind of have to get out of that. Like, at first it's, like, hard to be, like, because you want to think about it. And it, like, brings, like, some satisfaction. Like, I don't know, like, having a really bad itch and, like, scratching it perfectly. Like, it, like, had, like, that sort of a feeling to it.
Oh, for sure.
And then, like, so to not and, like, just let that itch just sit there or whatever. Like, that's a very mild example, but this is just what came to my head. But, like, leaving that like that and then, like, after time, you know what I mean? Like, then getting out. And now it's, like, the negative thought will, like, come, like, when I'm feeling in a certain mood. And it's easier to just be like, no.
Yeah.
Think about that. But.
Well, I mean, this song is interesting because it really talks about, I think, the responsibility of both parties, of the helper and the helpee.
Yep.
I do believe that we're our brother's keeper, and so I believe that if somebody's hurt, very wounded, like we've got people in our family right now that we're working with, but somebody's wounded emotionally, like it is absolutely our responsibility to do anything we can to help them within reason.
Yeah.
I also think that if you're the person that's hurt, you got to have some accountability here. You got to take some accountability for your mind, right? And I get it. Like some of this stuff is chemical, right? Serotonin levels and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the active choice to choose darkness and to choose despair and to rationalize decisions that are going to be destructive to you. And there's nobody on this planet that can jump into your mind and make you do that. And so there's a balance there, and so we got to reach a hand out and you got to reach a hand up. And if you meet in the middle, you'll be all right, no matter what your belief is. Me personally, it was God. There was no human being that was going to be able to get me, because you guys have seen I can rationalize and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's nobody who's going to argue me out of craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful to God that.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was just the relationship with God that time was very. It wasn't like you would think like, oh. It was just very like. So anyway, shout out to the big homie. What do you give the song?
I think I'm gonna go with a 9.8. What about you?
It was short and sweet.
I thought it was the perfect length. If
it was.
If it was 5-minute song, I would have thought it was too long.
It was. I could co-sign a 9.8 for sure. Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. 9.8. Good song. In Flames. This is a Swedish band. It's like the At
really?
the Gates. They're a Swedish band too.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Maybe we like their music.
Inshallah, they go on tour. You can see them in an interview. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.